Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Ann Morrow, and this is a show about bicycling in general and specifically about bicycle safety. Our guests are Michael Morrow from Nutcase Helmets and Jim Moore, who just published a new book, 75 Classic Rides Oregon, the best road biking routes, and that's just come out. And I want to thank our crew for helping us tonight with all our technical things, and thank you, viewers, for joining us. And also thank you to Northwest Bicycle Safety Council for producing the show. Before we start, I wanted to share a couple of kind of personal incidents that happened. They're bicycle related and I think kind of inspiring. I was riding my bicycle in Vancouver, Washington in Clark County with my granddaughter Annika, who's 5. She was riding her little bike and I was riding my road bike. And I saw a Clark County Sheriff's car go by, and then I saw it do a quick U-turn and come back with its lights on, coming back to Annika and I was thinking, oh no, what have I done? And the officer got out of the car and he came up to Annika and squatted down by her and complimented her that we were wearing our helmets while we rode our bicycles. And he gave us each a free Slurpee coupon for 7-Eleven. And I thought that was really great that the sheriff's office was reinforcing this positively the good behavior of wearing helmets, and Annika was really thrilled, and it really made an impression on her. So I thought that was a really neat experience, and the officer was a really neat guy and really gracious with her. And the other incident was somebody that I work with who's 18 just got his driver's license, and personally I haven't taken a driving test for a while, and he took his driving test to get his license, and when I asked him how he'd done, he said, I did real well, but I missed one point. I was making a right turn and I did not look over my right shoulder to look for bicyclists. And I thought that was really exciting, that we bicyclists really kind of rule the road and people need to look out for us, and you can lose a point on your driving test if you're not aware of that. And I hadn't really thought about how changes in the law and the awareness of bicyclists impacts the DMV that way. So that was really interesting. So I think it just shows how prevalent cycling is in our community, and Northwest Bicycle Safety Council is proud to be part of that and proud to be part of the safety element of getting helmets on everyone's head. So speaking of helmets, our first guest is Michael Morrow, and he's the creator and founder of Nutcase Helmets, and we've got a lot of helmets here to show you. And he's going to talk to us about the manufacturing of helmets. We are always pushing, wear a helmet, and he makes helmets. So we're going to kind of look at that point of view. And so thank you for joining us, Michael.
Thank you.
And we happen to share the same last name, Morrow, but we aren't related. And this is kind of interesting. If you watch everyone on the show tonight, their last name starts with M.
They do?
Yeah, Jim
Oh,
Moore,
Moore. Right.
Michael Morrow, and Morrow. We're all Morrows. Some guy named Obama wanted to be on the show, and I said, no, your last name doesn't start with an M. So, Michael, are you a cyclist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd ride to work every day. That's good.
Yeah.
Ride around the neighborhood. We live in Mount Tabor in Portland, so we're around the park, right around there. I'm an athlete, so I do everything that's sports. So whatever it is, you get me out there playing.
Well, good, and you've got helmets just
yeah,
for it.
Lots of helmets.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Corvallis, Oregon. Big Beaver fan back then. My family's all connected to Oregon State sports. I grew up art in sports, which is how I ended up years later at Nike for 10 years in the 90s. And that was sort of a great place for me to be because I was art and sports, and I did design and logos and graphics and all that for 10 years, and had a great time there, and then decided to go out on my own. So I've been a designer. I've had my own agency for the last 10 years, and then we started Nutcase in about 2005, and now that's what we do. And
you and I aren't related.
Right.
What other famous Oregon Morrow are you related to?
So Morrow Snowboards is my family. That's my dad and my brother that started that in about 87, and they killed that. Morrow Snowboards was around to about 98. I think then they sold it to K2. So yeah, I've got a good family. Our family's all in sports and snow, and Rob's a big surf and skate guy. So we do lots of things together. But yeah, that's our family's Morrow Snowboards. And then if you see the cranes out around the city,
oh yeah,
Morrow Crane is also my dad started that with my uncles, and that's the our crane, the crane company is my uncle's.
I do see
So
that.
you'll see those big yellow cranes. They'll say Morrow up
Yes,
there. That's
being
my,
a Morrow,
yeah.
I do notice that.
Yeah, that's my uncles, Rick and John.
Oh,
Isn't
interesting.
that funny?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a family of entrepreneurs.
I guess so.
And that's kind of why I had such a great time at Nike. I love Nike, but I had the entrepreneurial, instincts, and I wanted to just go do something on my own. And it's kind of what led me to leave. Otherwise, I'd probably still be out there with a swoosh.
So tell us about kind of what got you going with the helmet.
Well, my funny way, as it literally was my last day at Nike. Like I said, I'd been there 10 years, and my boss at the time was a big Duck fan. And of course, I grew up in Corvallis, so he comes in literally the last few minutes. It's the Thursday before the Civil War in Oregon in 2000, and both the Ducks and the Beavers are ranked in the top 10. It was the biggest Civil War of our time at that point. The game was going to be in Corvallis. I had tickets. So my old boss name was Mark Pilkington. So Mark comes in, and he's saying goodbye, and he says, "Hey, that'll be a great game on Saturday." And I go, "We're gonna kick your butt," like that. And so I got me all fired up. So I'm literally left the building at Nike, and I had my boy with me. We went to pizza just around the corner, and I just drew on a napkin, sketched out a helmet to make for the game. It was an Oregon State helmet based on like the '60s Beavers and Orange O's on his black helmet stripes, and big steel spikes on top of the helmet. So I went home, made the helmet the next day. It was actually my buddy next door to me he's a Duck fan. He gave me his son's helmet, which was black. And I made that helmet up, tape and all this stuff, super glued these steel screws about 4 inches tall. And I had grabbed all the rubber duckies from the house, drove to Corvallis because I had a pregame party at my brother's, did the whole Ducks. But, Joey Harrington was the quarterback at the time.
Yeah.
So I wrote Joey's name on there, X'd out the eyes and stuff like that. So wore it to the game, and I kind of usually have these horn-rimmed glasses, kind of, like little gray hair. So I had this helmet on, and our seats were 8 rows from the field. And so during timeouts, the camera guy would be on our little group, right? So I was on national television because that game was televised nationally, and I had friends calling me saying, "Hey, I just saw you are you there? Are you wearing a helmet?" So we did the whole around the stadium, and and everybody was just either yay or nay, right, for the helmet. And it just got me thinking after that game, like, there's got to be something about creativity and inspiration and fun that's a helmet that can be based on a helmet like hats are, and particularly on college campuses. And so that's what it started. The idea of Nutcase started literally when I left the building of Nike then. And then it took another couple of years to get to think it through, and then I kind of went out, and so I didn't really we weren't in the bicycling industry. I was coming from Nike and sports, and the design of sports. But once I started going to the stores and started looking at helmets, no disrespect to the helmet companies, but a lot of the graphics in particular are kind of lame. In the helmet world, there's either Barney dinosaurs or icky graphics on the helmets themselves. It just wasn't anything that was really that great out there. So I kind of went, how come these helmets have a nice canvas for art?
They do.
And kids, and they're multi-generational. Kids can wear them, parents can wear them, whatever, and you can wear them for skateboard, bicycle, whatever. So that's what started the ball rolling of thinking, maybe there's an opportunity with this idea of inspiration of graphics and identity and things that you could do with it, to start thinking of maybe we should make something up.
Well, flash forward, it was a good idea. But back to the past.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the name?
Well, I thought that it had to be something, the name, and I'm pretty good with words because I've made up I've always done this, is just make stuff up. That's what I kind of got to do at Nike, is just make up things, make up collections, apparel, footwear, whatever. So I just put my thinking cap on and figured it had to be something that was both a fun name that meant something kind of fun, but also meant helmet. And Nutcase meant your nut and the case around it, and Nutcase. So I always kind of look for things that do this double entendre type of thing, and it just kind of hit me. And I kind of did the check with my little kids, Alina, my little daughter, said, "What do you think of Nutcase?" Like that. She's, "That's pretty fun," And they were 6, 7, 8, 9 at the time, and it just one thing led to another, and that one just kind of grabbed everybody that I said it to. So what do you think of that? And they was like, "Wow, that'd be that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so once we actually made a helmet, our first one we ever made was watermelon, which we
Oh,
actually
yeah.
have out there,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like a watermelon, right?
Uh-huh.
Watermelon rind. They're all hand applied they're all by hand, all these
Wow.
helmets. But we got it back with the watermelon and Nutcase, and it was like, we all we had to do is just go out and show anybody, and they would just go
Yeah.
beam, like smile, right?
I
And we
still
knew
remember.
we had a tiger by the tail
Yes.
when that day, and that was, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, 9 years ago.
About that time, I still remember the first time I saw them. Because
Yeah.
you're right, they're just so
Yeah.
unusual.
Makes you
and-
smile.
yes.
That's kind
Like,
of it.
what is that?
Yeah.
I got to have one of those.
Right. And it's been kind of crazy like that ever since.
So what are your helmets made out of, and why? Because the fun part is
Yeah.
out of the way. Now we got to get
Right.
down to the nitty
What
gritty.
they're made of, they're expanded polystyrene and ABS plastic. I mean, they are our helmets are a basic helmet. Like they're pretty much made almost the same way that, almost all the brain bucket helmets of style that you see is similar. ABS shell, a little different than
so I
this
brought a
kind.
belt,
This is more of a
okay.
lightweight
Yeah.
PVC plastic,
Uh-huh.
right? And EPS. EPS foam is almost all bicycle helmets are this EPS foam, expanded polystyrene. So that's primarily, almost every helmet is made
Yes.
of that, because they have to be able to pass CPSC standards, which are set, and CE for Europe standards, and the hardest in the world is Australia's ASNZS. It's all these impact tests
Yes.
that have to be done and made, and the shock absorption has to be able to pass that, and it's pretty much where the world is right now. There has been some developments. It's just a matter of whether production can do it, but there's some developments in maybe corrugated paper, which would be awesome. Great idea out of this kid out of UK, which a lot of people have talked to. But the production, with everything, there's always something. The paper that he's got all comes from India, and it's got to go to China, and then it's a little challenging to change, like anything, to change it, especially when their safety standards have to be met.
Yes.
Versus like apparel, footwear, other things don't really have to be able to have that kind of liability in there, and they can do lots of different stuff, and you can bring in all kinds of different materials. It's a little bit more sort of it's a little archaic in a sense.
Right.
The helmets.
Right.
So it's tough to change because of hitting the standards.
Absolutely.
And we're working. I can't talk too much about it at all,
Yeah.
but we are working with a group in Portland
Uh-huh.
who creates medical equipment, and they're really kind of semi-geniuses. This one guy in particular is a German fellow, is a great guy. They have it in themselves to make a better helmet, right? That also could be produced. And
Yeah.
it has to be produced. Almost all the production is in Asia, and fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, it's where production is almost everywhere. There's nothing being made in the United States in terms of helmets. So they all have to be produced out there. But we're kind of got something that we're working on that would, I don't know if it would necessarily make it different materials, but maybe make the testing scores, be lower and better so when you less concussions. So if you do fall off your
see.
bike or get hit or whatnot, the way that you can measure the scores for how they impact and how it would hurt your brain, not so much your skull, but your brain impact would be better.
Yes. Okay.
And that's a great thing that a lot of people are trying to do. And there's different folks around the world working on things like that. They tend to be a little cost prohibitive. Let's just face it, they kind of tend to be that, but like in all things, But I think it's going to happen a little bit. But the materials it's a pretty much of a petroleum-based thing, which is really kind of a bummer, in a way.
Yeah.
Particularly Portland, with Columbia Sports, with Nike and Adidas, you've got a big bicycle world here. You have all these people who care about sustainability. You try to do everything you possibly can, and then there's some things where you just go, wow, the technology to do that, either we don't have it yet, or we don't know how it's going to get done yet.
Yeah, your
it's
hands
a little
are
out
kind
there.
of tied in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
Yeah, but right now the biggest thing is that is safety. So until you can come up with other materials, it's got to be stuff that passes the laws.
So is that also include the actual design of the helmet? How
Yeah.
did you come up with this design? Is
Well,
it purely safety to protect your head?
mostly, I mean, really, it was the fact that back then, when we started this, as I was saying, I was really a designer, sports guy, not bicycling industry person, right? I've learned now through it more bicycle product type stuff. So these were chosen really from the standpoint of the canvas was great. They were already passing. They already fit great. So they had good fit. They were already proven commodity out there, you know.
Okay.
So they was easier and more accessible
Yeah.
for people to then get into and put this helmet on and wear it, particularly kids, than picking another helmet. There's different shells like this, and for us it was going to be this hard shell kind versus this because
Yes.
again because of the canvas. And so this one just happened to fit better. And the factory that we worked with, we liked them better, and they could do graphics better than other people. So it was kind of a combination of fit, test scores, ability to do stuff like that, which is kind of hard.
Yes.
So because this is literally folks putting these things on by hand
Wow.
versus a lot of helmets are just, not this one, this is silver only, but some will have graphics here, and that's just stamped out of a machinery and boom, boom. This is probably 10 minutes of
I
work.
see.
So it's cool, much more labor intensive.
Yeah.
So in our case, because it's so graphic intense, our decisions were more based on that,
Yeah.
that we knew it passed testing, it's good, it fits well, and it's comfortable, and you can do sizes really well. So that was all check, check, check. Then that was less for us to worry about. And then this and the name was going to get people to be excited about buying a helmet or this helmet or whatever helmet and want to wear their helmet. So those are the more things that we're doing now. Now the things we do are, since the marketplace has responded and people kind of like Nutcase and it's grown, now we kind of have permission to go and design our own helmets, do them maybe the way we want, maybe lighter weight, whereas like this is a lot lighter weight than these helmets are. So we've got helmets coming that'll use more of this technology where it's a lighter weight piece of plastic, and it'll be printed, or it might even still be used a decal and have less vents than this, but still have more venting than what these are and lighter weight than what these are. So there's folks who these are just too hot for them. You go long ride. This is not probably what you want to ride. Like taking your MG out on a long ride, you probably don't want to do that, right? So that's kind of what these are. So it probably don't want to do that. So we can kind of go there and make other helmets that would be more ventilation, less hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of alluded to this. You're an Oregon business, but helmets are not made in the United States.
No.
They just aren't.
No, there isn't anybody doing it. It's just, what are you going to do?
Yeah. You're going to go
you
where
look at the hourly rates, and it's tough to do. Yeah, I think Bell, for a while, was maybe having something made in Illinois. They started out there. They might do that as a marketing ploy, but it's all made in Asia.
Okay.
Yeah. It'd be nice to say Mexico.
Yeah.
And it would be great. And I think could be some day where there are maybe military helmets. Actually, there might be military helmets, but I don't know from bicycle. There's not any bicycles made here.
Okay.
But it would be great someday that you could say, and it might have to be, I don't want to talk about money, but it had to be a higher end, helmets or, I don't know, something like that where you could afford.
Just
afford
not
it,
cost effective.
but in the United States, our cost of living is just so much different and so much higher than flat out Asia. It just makes it tough to do it. So
now, are your sales international
yeah,
too?
we're about 50-50, North America to international.
Good.
We have a very large European business. Copenhagen, Denmark is is just nutty. They're nutty. What can I say? They love bikes. They love design. They're fun, and so we do very well in Denmark. Japan coming along very much. Japanese adults aren't used to wearing helmets.
Okay.
Kind of like what Holland is. Holland's a little different that way. They love bikes. They grew up without wearing helmets.
Right.
So the adults are hard to put in a helmet, but the kids, though definitely the kids, which is these little, what we call little nutty, they're 3 to 6 year old sizing, and so in those countries where the adults are a little bit like, yeah, I like them, but I don't want to wear a helmet, they'll buy them like that for their kids. So the generation is changing, and in our mind, then those kids growing up with Nutcase will also then go look for the next Nutcase, the next Nutcase. So it'll
Yes,
change
exactly.
for the next 5, 10, 20 years. Our plan is that they'll just be asking for Nutcase.
And certainly that's
Yeah.
happened in the United States, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Mhm.
That as we grew
Absolutely.
up, because I remember being very resistant to the idea of a
When
helmet.
when I riding my little Schwinn Varsity, we didn't have helmets when I
No,
was growing.
and wasn't going to wear one.
And it was still a little bit, not resistant, just a habit to break, I think, from an adult standpoint.
Uh-huh.
In fact, we've done the International Walk and Bike Day with the BTA in Portland for a few years, where we would raffle helmets off at, I think it was 380 or 90 schools in Oregon. So everybody who rode on that October 30th day, right before Halloween, rode from home to school, their school, they'd raffle off. The first year we raffled off a kid's sizing, but then we said, hey, wait a minute, all the parents are riding, but they're not wearing their helmet, and then the kids are, so we go, that's a bad example. So we said adults and kids, and then the adults will get a helmet, and then the kids. And so just to promote the whole family wearing it,
Well,
you know.
thanks for participating in that. I mean, certainly that's what Northwest Bicycle Safety Council is all about. So who is your target market? You've talked about kids and adults.
It's pretty much the modern family. You know,
okay.
you've got, there's we kind of tend to, you know, it's kind of the towny, beach cruisery world a little bit. We're not really, as you can tell, these are not the same kind. So we're not really race and that much road. You know, it's mostly urban, recreation, tootling around, stopping to smell the roses, kids, families. You know, it's more of that world. So those folks who go to the bike store to buy those kinds of bikes, they're typically are putting our helmets with those bikes, right? And that's really a family that's doing active. They're active folks. They're kind of young at heart, and fun, and the whole family likes to do things together. And so, but it's typically has been kind of the mom, and then the kids, and then dad thinks they're all really cool and loves the name. And so we'll have like solids helmets, like again silver, black, and white. The dad, that's a little more comfortable for dad, but he loves the name.
Yeah.
And you see all these graphics, but yet our black helmet sells more than anything.
Oh.
Because we believe, because people, the fit is great, people like it, it's easy to put on, it's fun, and they love the whole Nutcase thing, and it says Nutcase right there, and they would prefer that versus, sorry to say, your Bell or Giros on that, and they think those are fine, but this is just a little more fun, right? And that's kind of what's been happening. You know, it's been kind of going that way. It's the family, but dad's sort of the last one to come on board, but then he's kind of fired up.
Now we're starting to run out of time, and I want to get one question in before we really do. And this happens on our event rides, like our Beaverton Banks and Beyond ride coming up. You've got to wear a helmet to do the ride. And club rides, you've got to have a helmet. So if you showed up to an event ride or a club ride and this happens, you forgot your helmet. You don't have a helmet, so you can't do the ride. What would you do? Would you like run to the, I mean, people will run to the local, you know, quick and get the cheapest helmet they can to make do so they can do the ride, or would you just say, oh darn, I don't get to do the ride? What would you do?
Well, obviously I would have my helmet.
Yes, all right. That would be mortifying,
you
wouldn't it?
gotta wear a helmet and have to wear a helmet. I mean, that's changed for me since I've gotten into this, right?
Yeah.
Previous life, I probably would have not have thought about it as much, and I know that I can see that in other folks. Come on. Or if when we go to Black Butte to go, we built a house there a long time ago, sometimes I think, well, I could just ride down to the pool without a helmet. But see, all it takes is the one
fall
time. And that's the thing, like, oh, no. See, it's like changing that idea that I don't need it. Like not wearing your seatbelt at one time just because, hey, I'm just going down to the wherever store. But that one time, and so we've always said it, just put any helmet on. Really, I mean, most of them in the United States are likely going to pass CPSC. Right. Even if you go to, you know, discount stores, you can just see that you pretty much have to pass CPSC to even get in here. You know, there can be some that aren't, but still, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So you'd rather do that than have the worst happen, or just get hit and then be impaired, or whatever. All the bad things that can happen. So yeah, I would just say, go down there and get a helmet. I mean,
that would be
your
like
life
really
is worth
a bad
more than that, right?
It sure
You have to love
is.
your brain.
So how do you test your helmets? I mean, how do you replicate falling off a bike and hitting your head?
Well, there are, how we test it are literally there is testing equipment, professional testing equipment in our factories. We've got a few, not ours, but the ones that we use, have all that state-of-the-art equipment.
Okay.
And there's Canadian-built ones, and there's all kinds of them. But they're tested like every batch. So it's called batch testing. So when you have a supply of all these parts that come in, they have to be batched. Like to fill a container, they have to be tested. So they randomly test.
I see.
Different parts that are put together, random test out of the selection. They go in and they're tested for all kinds, 4 different conditions. Like they freeze them for like 4 hours at -20, and then you take it out, and within 3 minutes you got to test it twice on this equipment that'll drop it, and you test it all the way around. There's different points so the technicians will hit the anvil on, and there's different anvils. So it's all these little tests, and they're different for the United States, or CPSC versus CE. For Europe, there's a little different versus Australia. But generally speaking, you're going to test it all the different crazy
Every
ways.
which way.
And they're going to measure the G's on them, and then they cannot be over X certain numbers. So it's all kind of, now it's gotten to be pretty good where it's computerized and balanced, and that it's going to be accurate the way that they're tested. So it's not like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty serious deal now.
It is.
Testing. Yeah.
It is. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. It's
Thank
been
you.
a lot of fun, and I really learned a lot, and I love your helmets.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we're going to go to a video now. We have our video of the Beaverton Banks and Beyond Bicycle Tour, and this is the 2011 video, but we've got that ride coming up on August 25th. And so I hope you'll watch this video and be inspired to go to our website and sign up and join us for the ride. We'll all be out there to support you and make it a great ride. So let's watch the video. Well, you can see what a beautiful ride Beaverton Banks and Beyond Bicycle Tour is. It really is a spectacular route. We've added some new little loops so that if you're someone that likes to do 100 miles, we've got a full century for you this year. If you're not as experienced, we've got a 32-mile ride too, and anything in between. It's just really spectacular, and again, we will take good care of you, have lots of support and lots of food, and you can see what fun it is. So I hope you'll join us on August 25th. Please go to our website and sign up, and we'll see you on the 25th. I've got our second guest now, Jim Moore. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. You're very welcome.
And you just came out with a book, 75 Classic Rides, Oregon, the Best Biking Routes. And, you know, it's really a beautiful book. We're going to talk about that. But I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And before we got on the air, you were telling us that we could fill up the whole time with just you telling us about yourself. But you've got your fingers in a lot of pies.
Well, you know, people talk about wanting to shape your business and your career in a direction that you like. I'm a freelance writer. I've been doing that for 12 years. And at a certain point, I got hooked up with Cycle Oregon and doing their marketing. I've been doing that for 7 years now. And through that, just made some connections here and there. And now I do work for Travel Oregon on their website, rideoregonride.com. I do marketing for Cycle Oregon. I write freelance articles for the Oregonian for cycling on the traveling section. I've just started a bike tour of my own in Montana called Cycle Greater Yellowstone that will debut next August. I like biking, and it's great to be able to work in that field and really experience that.
You've really carved out a neat little niche for yourself. Now, so what kind of bicycling do you like to do? You talked about this tour you're developing in Montana, so obviously some road riding, some multi-day riding.
I started off really more mountain biking and then got into road biking a little more when I started doing an event called Race Across Oregon, a relay event with some friends, and then being involved in Cycle Oregon as well. So I'm more of a roadie now, and I really enjoy riding with the Wheelman Club on the weekday night rides, and then I also do a lot of riding on the weekends with my friends and take some tours. I just love to ride.
Obviously. Well, you've come out with this book. Why don't you describe it for us? Tell us about this 75 Classic Rides, Oregon.
The basic concept is that the Mountaineers, the publishers behind the book, they're famous for doing trail guides, and they decided they wanted to get into the world of cycling, and they decided to start with the Northwest because it's such a rich area for cycling. So they approached me, actually called me up and asked if I would do this book. They found me by doing a Google search on cycling, Oregon, and writing. So there you go, all those tentacles. So they asked me if I would like to do a book. They were going to start with Washington and Oregon, two guides. And I said, of course, that'd be really fun. I know so many routes off the top of my head, I could write it right now. So the idea was to spread around the state so people get a variety of geography, because Oregon offers such amazing riding in such different settings. And then to also have a variety of lengths and challenge levels. So there's everything from a 2-mile ride that a family could do with all the little kids to what we call your basic sufferfest, all day and climbing. So the book really covers all that ground and then tries to give enough detail so people can get a real feel for the ride before they go. They can read through here and find one that suits them or where they're going and have a real strong feeling about it and visuals and ideas about the climbing before they go ride it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the details in a little while. So they contacted you, but what was your motivation to get involved with them?
Having your name on a book is pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, people come to you and say, do you want to write a book? Well, okay. And, you know, they're going to pay me to do it, so that's nice. Also, I had this storehouse of knowledge about routes, and I'm the guy that everybody calls and says, oh, we want to go up to Central Oregon. Where should we ride? I'm just a route encyclopedia guy.
Okay.
So it was real natural for me to be able to share this experience and all these, all the knowledge I have about routes. So when they asked me, it really was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it sounds like it. A perfect fit. Now, you said that you had already a lot of routes in mind, but the book is really very precise. How did you research all this? Did you go out and do all these, or did you have some,
That's
I
the
don't know,
funny
archived?
part. When they called me and said, can you do this? I thought, this is going to be easy. I could do 50 right now and just ride them. I've ridden them all. I know them. And then they said, oh, you have to actually go out there and photograph everyone and chart everyone and talk about the shoulder conditions and pavement. And so last summer I was gone every weekend from May to August on research trips. Took my family a couple times, but I was gone quite a bit. And the irony of it is that with that kind of a time crunch, I would go out and have to drive 3, 4, 5 routes in a weekend to get it all done.
Yes.
Because a lot of these routes are weather dependent. They're not open otherwise, other than in the summer. So I have ridden almost all of them, but to research it, I mostly had to drive, which was
Yeah.
kind of frustrating because you're on a beautiful road and you're thinking, oh, I want to ride, but I have to get to the next one. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that, but you're right. I mean, just the time. I've done little routes myself, and it just takes a lot of time to have it perfect, because
Yeah.
you can't say left turn when you mean right turn when you're
Right.
putting it in a book.
And stopping to take notes every
Yeah.
mile or two about something that you've noticed, and then also having to take pictures, which takes a lot longer. This isn't just hop out of the car and take a snapshot. You got to think about it to have good enough pictures. So it was pretty time consuming.
I bet it was. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the specific details about this book. And I'm planning a ride in Central Oregon. I do this every September, and I've decided to add a ride to my little repertoire here over the weekend. So on my Monday ride in September is going to be the Twin Bridges Loop. And I went to Ride Oregon Ride for the information, because this is a scenic bikeway.
Right.
And then you tell me, oh yeah, I do that too. So you were I already had your information. But then in the book, this Twin Bridges Loop really gives a lot of great information. And a lot of people with their routes, they like a map. And some people like a cue sheet, a turn by turn. If you're at mile like here, you've got 10.7, you're going to make a right onto Collins Road. So it really helps you do the ride without getting lost.
And can I point out something really fantastic about this
Please.
book? It's a new technology that we talked about doing when we started planning the book, and that is you don't want to take that book with you on a ride. It's way too big. So there's actually a code in the inside of the book, a few pages in, where you can go online. And if you've bought the book, then you have the code. You can actually download and print a cue sheet and a map for any individual ride. So one sheet, 2 sides in your pocket, you got all the information with you.
But you do have to memorize all your good insight, all your narratives about the rides, some of the interesting things to see, some of the history, or perhaps I noticed on this ride you point out a particular road that the road kind of goes to the right, but you don't want to go right, you want to make a left turn there. Things like that they're really helpful.
You have to think like you're on a bike, and if someone were going here for the very first time, and I already knew most of these routes, so I had to go out there and think like they would. Don't be confused, you need to go left here. What would you notice here that's really kind of cool that you might not look at if you were focusing on the road? That's what I can add to the routes, the personal insights. Yeah.
And that is just really awesome. As a ride leader, I know I like to share information like that with new people, just to make it more interesting for them. And like you said, things they might not notice. If you got your head down over the handlebars, you missed the waterfall or whatever.
Right.
And two, you've got the elevation gain and all that, so you know what to expect on the route.
The design of the book came out really well, very handsome. The colors are pretty bright and primary. It's easy to follow. So the basic information is up front at the beginning of the chapter. What season should you ride? How much climbing is involved? How much time will it take the average person, average rider to do this? And then an elevation profile gives you a little more visual idea of climbing.
Yes.
And then how to get there, where to park. I mean, we just tried to cover everything that we could to make it easy for you to just go and enjoy the route.
And like a cookbook, it's got beautiful photographs that really lure you to each ride. And Banks Vernonia is in the book, not our particular route, but the Banks Vernonia Trail is in the book.
Which is such a great resource.
It is.
For families and everyone. It's a beautiful, beautiful ride. It's so close to Portland. It's dedicated. There's no traffic to worry about. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. And like you were saying, you also have some very long rides, like border to border. So if friends don't want to do an organized ride, they can just use this as a resource and maybe get together, a group of them, do their own SAG, run their own SAG for all of them, camp out at different locations, and maybe cross the state.
And that's the basis of some of the the longer multi-day routes, is I do that with a group of friends of mine. 3 or 4 couples get together every summer, go out and pick an area of the state to explore. So some of these routes actually are from what we've done. That's a great way to see the state. Several days, all you're doing is riding and eating and sleeping and hanging out.
Just hanging out.
So fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done things like that. So tell us about some of your favorite rides. Can you pick some favorite rides from the book?
Oh, that is so hard. It really depends on what you're after. It's different flavors for different people. It's like an ice cream shop, You're going to want vanilla, I'm going to want chocolate. I'm a rivers and forest guy. So I love riding the Cascade Passes. So right off the top of my head, what comes to mind would be Mackenzie Scenic Pass and the Ofterheide Memorial Highway, which are very close to each other. They're both off Highway 126 between Salem and Sisters. The Mackenzie Scenic Pass goes from Sisters on one side up into the lava fields.
Yes.
It's just a moonscape. It's stark. It's like nothing else you'll ever see. And it's a fantastic ride. And you can often ride it before they open it to vehicles in the summer. You can get up there in the early spring and the road is plowed down to one lane of bare pavement and snow walls 10 feet high on either side of you. It's like a toboggan run. It's a beautiful ride and no traffic to worry about. But it's also gorgeous in the summer. In the fall, you get great leaf colors. And the Ofterheide goes up from Highway 126 up past Kruger Reservoir and eventually ends up in Oak Ridge. And it's just one of those magic carpet ride roads. It's beautiful pavement. Again, little traffic. It kind of flows up and down, follows rivers.
Yeah.
It's idyllic.
And when you did the Aufderheide, well, you can stay at each end of it and kind of go back and forth, like, or you can do car things, you know, shuttle cars. So there's different ways to do these rides, to just do them one way or maybe make a whole weekend of it and go back and forth.
In the book, there's actually a section where it suggests ways you can link some of these rides together to make longer trips. And you could actually do a ride from Crater Lake that ends up finishing on the Mackenzie Scenic Highway and link it almost all together without a lot of gaps just by doing that.
You sure could, yeah. Yeah, beautiful ideas. Boy, that would really be some different terrain doing that. And I like the photograph of the Crater Lake. Somehow that the Crater Lake, it's a guy laying on the rock wall and the Crater Lake in the background. It's beautiful. I've got a picture just like that at home from my trip around Crater Lake. It's like that's the classic photograph. You're laying on the wall and
it's a combination of, you know, it's a beautiful spot to just sit and absorb, and he's also probably really, really tired.
Yes, because it's a lot of
that road is never flat.
No, it never is. You're always doing something with your gears. But it's beautiful. So as an experienced rider, what kind of safety advice would you give? Obviously, you've got a lot of riding under your belt. What kind of safety advice would you pass along to our viewers?
This may seem contradictory a little bit, but the most important thing to me as a rider is to be confident and not afraid. Is if I know that I'm in control of what I'm doing, I'm much less likely to make a bad move or be in a bad situation. So I always try to ride confidently. But the second most important thing is I always want to be the nicest cyclist to cars that they've ever met. I want to be the guy that they go, wow, that guy was nice. He's not like all those cyclists, you know, that stereotype that people get. And when I ride around the city to Portland, if a car does something nice for me, man, I give them the wave and the thank you every time. So as far as safety, I think that sort of, you know, breeds more, not familiarity, but I guess comfort between drivers and riders. And to me, that's a big factor.
Okay. Well, it seems like we're having a little technical difficulty, so I'm going to fill in and we'll kind of double back here in a moment. But we're talking to Jim Moore right now about a book that he has written and researched, 75 Classic Rides, Oregon. And really we want to encourage people to do these rides around the state of Oregon. We live in a beautiful area that many people get on an airplane and travel to visit. And here we've got this right in our backyard. And as he mentioned, there's also one for Washington if you want to explore a little bit up north. But this book that Jim Moore wrote is really well done. We'll talk about our Beaverton Banks and Beyond ride too that's coming up on August 25th. And that's a great ride that we saw a video on that uses the Beaverton banks of the Beaverton Vernonia. So we're going to look at that video for a moment. So
Good?
okay, so we're going to, can you talk?
Yeah, absolutely. Mic okay? Let's keep talking here. Testing. Okay, we're good. Great.
there's that great Beaverton Banks and Beyond, and we're talking with Jim Moore, who put out this 75 Classic Rides Oregon, and we're talking to him about these 75 rides that are in one book, that we can all enjoy this book and get your own copy and ride around Oregon. So Jim, I was asking you about some of your favorite rides. Why don't you tell us, out of 75, I'm sure it's hard to pick, but what are some of your favorite rides and why?
I think what's really fun about this book and about riding in Oregon is the variety you can get. So if I wanted to think about favorite rides, I'd probably go to different parts of the state to experience different things. There's a ride out of Ashland, actually out of Jacksonville in southern Oregon, that goes up to Applegate Reservoir. That's just fantastic. It follows the Applegate River, and then you end up almost in California, kind of out in the wilds there. And the reservoir, the lake up there, is just beautiful. Again, a lightly traveled road, which is so fun, and you get this sort of destination at the end that's just fantastically beautiful as far as the scenery. And then coming back, it's mostly downhill, which is always nice. So
Yeah.
that's a big favorite of mine. And then if you go out into the eastern part of the state, where it's a little different geography than we have here, I have a big favorite that would be, gosh, there's so many of them. People don't know that much about the northeastern corner of the state up around the Wallowas, and there's a fantastic loop that you can take that I've done over 3 or 4 days that starts in, say, Union, goes to Baker City, halfway down into Hell's Canyon, over to Joseph and Wallowa Lake, and then follows the Wallowa River down along through Elgin. Just fantastic. It was a Cycle Oregon route for
Yes.
5 days, or I'm sorry, 6 days, and you can do it in as few as 4 or as many as 6 or 7. But that's one that people don't know about, that is just so beautiful that they shouldn't miss it.
You're right. If you've got any capability to ride at all, that should definitely be on your list, because and too, to get into some of these little communities when you're not all insulated in your car.
Absolutely. I think it's really great what warm reception you get when you come to these small communities. And I'm not sure every state is like this. I think a lot of it is that Cycle Oregon has paved the way. They've come through these small towns, they've stayed there, they've injected money into the economy. People have mingled with the cyclists and figured out we're all just nice people. And they love to interact with visitors of any kind. So I've really been impressed with the warm reception that you get when you're touring on a bike.
Yeah, good point. Are you working on any other books coming down the pike here?
Nope, I'm devoting most of my time to this new tour in Montana, the Cycle Greater Yellowstone tour. So no books in the offing right now.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that tour that you've got coming up? You talked about how much time you had to invest in this book. That sounds like a time eater too.
Well, someone that I know in Montana came and did Cycle Oregon with me, was so amazed and inspired by it that he thought we should do this in Montana. He went back and talked to a nonprofit conservation organization called the Greater Yellowstone Coalition that he works for, and said we should do an event like this. And they said that's a great idea. And he asked me if I wanted to be involved, and I said you bet. I'd like to run this. So we've worked it out over the last year or so, and we started taking registration in June. The actual event is next August, and you know, you say the word Yellowstone, and people understand it's beautiful. We're riding around in the area of the park, which is fantastically scenic in terms of mountain passes and fly fishing rivers, and I'm pretty excited. I'll just shut up now.
So if we have done a Cycle Oregon or something like that, we have a general idea of what it will be like?
Yeah, the basic format is the same. I mean, it's such a proven model that works so well. Is town to town, 7 days, a large group, in this case more like 1,000 to 1,500 riders. Cycle Oregon's much bigger. Just setting up camp in a town each day and having the same sort of ride, 50 to 75 miles a day, and a lot of the entertainment and other amenities of a good high-end tour.
Wow, that sounds. Now I hear you say you're going into Yellowstone Park?
Yeah, we're actually going to not ride through the park, and that's not because it's not allowed. It's because on that road that we want to go on is the only road they don't allow tours on, which is the Lamar Valley Road on the north end of the park. It's just too narrow with no shoulders.
I see.
The park was quite cooperative. They were welcoming to us to come into any road, but that's the one that fits our route. So we're actually going to bus people through the park on that day, and then have environmentalists and naturalists along to stop and show them some things in the park.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I know I always enjoy that kind of thing, learning a little bit more about where you're at.
And it's a good layover day.
Yeah. Boy, it sounds like you've got some great ideas.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event.
And it seems like, Montana, a good place to explore.
The Greater Yellowstone ecosystem actually is It's 10 times as big as the park itself, and it encompasses 3 states. So we're going to have this tour actually move around the ecosystem to give people the chance to come in and be more aware of that land. So it's going to be in Montana, it's going to be in Wyoming, and it's also going to touch on Idaho.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's get back to your book, your
Yeah.
75 classic rides. What kind of struggles did you have with the writing process itself? You certainly talked about the time crunch and the research and the being gone from your family all last summer, but what other struggles did you have?
The real challenge in writing a guidebook, I did a reading at Powell's, and I'm thinking, well, who wants to hear someone read from a guidebook? Turn left 2.5 miles. It's the same thing when you're writing it. You want to get beyond just directions to give flavor to the rides. So when you have 75 different routes and you need to describe a beautiful, leafy, forested canopy over a road, how many ways can you say green?
Yeah.
Oregon has such,
Yeah.
So the challenge really is to describe it in a way that makes each route individual and has appeal to riders, and that you capture the sense of the ride that you have when you're on it, and then give it to someone else as an example of why they should ride it.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. Now, when you began this project, did it end up the way you had envisioned it at the outset, or did you have to tweak things? And this is published by the Mountaineers, so they already kind of had a format for you, the way they like to do things.
Yeah.
So it kind of fit into that, or did you tweak it some?
Well, we collaborated a little bit on what information should be involved, but because they were working with both Washington and Oregon books, they had kind of a format that they wanted to follow. And so that wasn't the problem as far as changing it. And honestly, the book turned out better than I thought it would. Not that I didn't think it would, it was just that much better. And the quality of the paper and the way the photographs came out and the design, I'm just so pleased with it. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people who feel like it's a great guidebook and a handsome one.
Yes, it really is. I'd really encourage our viewers to get the book. Everybody I've showed it to is really impressed. I'm really impressed. If you're a cyclist, it's a must-have. And certainly if you've got gifts to give, here's a great idea for your cyclists, is get them this book. And Jim, I'm really impressed. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here and talk to you, and thanks for having me.
It's been exciting to learn about the process. So I want to thank our viewers for joining us too, and I hope that you've come away with some knowledge about helmets and how they're made, and I hope that you're wearing your helmet, and certainly some cycling ideas and a great resource for you here with the 75 Classic Rides Oregon. And Jim's got this great new ride coming up next summer in Montana, so maybe I should ask about how you would sign up for that ride or get more information.
CycleGreaterYellowstone.com.
CycleGreaterYellowstone.com for more information on a fun ride. And lots of these rides fill up really fast, so it's always good to know about another one. Northwest Bicycle Safety Council promotes safety, so we encourage you to wear your helmet and ride safely. Share the roads with others, and I think Jim gave us some great advice to be friendly and reinforce people with positive actions like waving and smiling at motorists when they're good to you, and reinforce the behavior of good motorists. I think that's very effective. And get out there and check out the Nutcase helmets and Jim Moore's book. So I hope that you've learned a little bit about all this. And so don't forget to join us for Beaverton Banks and Beyond on August 25th. Go to our website and sign up. Thank you.